Hi, folks. First of all, our co-founder Tanmay was supposed to be here. He couldn't make it due to some emergency. So I'm just filling in for him, taking out the same topic that he wanted to present here. Okay, so what I want to share here is our journey as a company who has an open source product now. From the conceptualization of the product to the implementation and to the open source and the community building around it, and how what are the kind of insights that we got from or through this journey. So let's see. So I'm Shahidh. So I am one of the founding members of the founding engineering team, and let me just see. So I started working with Hasura from my college days. Like, I did an internship with them. I later went on to join the company with the team. I was with them even before we were called Hasura, and we were incorporated as a company as Hasura as well. So my role in the company has changed a lot. Like, I was an intern initially, used to build out some prototype applications. And then I started working on some Kubernetes related stuff. Nowadays I do mostly some Kubernetes stuff. And now I am leading our work on the cloud and enterprise version of Hasura. So this was me in college, and this is me now. So you can see, like, I'm pretty happy from where I am. So what does Hasura do? So I'm not sure if many of you have heard about Hasura or not. So we make data access easy for developers. And the way we do that is by giving developers a GraphQL API on top of their databases. So, and for businesses, it's about making their data scalable and accessible and secure for their developers and for their consumers to use it. So how do we do this? We put Hasura, you can put Hasura in your stack in front of your database, and it makes it available as a service. So this is roughly what happens. You can make a GraphQL query with certain kind of authorization to Hasura. Hasura will translate that query into SQL and then execute it on your DB and then give you back the data. So this is what it does in short. So we open sourced the technology last year, around 18 months ago. So, and we have been getting huge traction from the community. So we are the #1 button on Heroku. So we have, our Docker image have been downloaded more than 23 million times on Docker Hub. So yeah, thank you. We have over 14,000 stars on GitHub within 18 months. And we have a lot of companies, commercial enterprises using Hasura, top commercial aviation companies, one of the largest banks, healthcare providers, electric car manufacturers. A lot of them use Hasura in production. So I'm going to take you over our journey, where we started and where we are at right now. So we started it from Chennai. So Bangalore is a second home for us. Our roots are from Chennai. So we had a vision to make application development easy for everybody, right? So it's around, like, the numbers say that there are around 20 million developers in the world today. So that's a ridiculous amount of software developers and ridiculous amount of software that is being created that impacts our lives in a day-to-day manner, right? So this number is only going to grow exponentially. So we were just trying to do things, we were building apps ourselves, and then we figured that the experience really sucked, right? So it's not really great to be a developer and build an app, especially if you're building a lot of apps and things like that. So we wanted to make it easy for people to do what they want to do using technology, like creating apps or building tools and everything. So, but we didn't know what exactly to do. So we started building out apps ourselves and try to figure out what we can do to make this process easy. And we want to democratize the ability to create, the ability to create. That is something that we want to democratize and make it available for everybody, right? So we started building tools that provided better abstractions over certain things. So we started consulting with clients, try to understand their requirements, and started building tools which will solve their requirements. So we built apps for startups, and then we help enterprises to move from monoliths to cloud native. And then we built some of the earliest tools and platforms with Docker and Kubernetes. We used Kubernetes, we started using Kubernetes before Kubernetes was 1.0, and that pushed our productivity envelope a lot, but not always with good results. Like, it comes with the ups and downs. So we built out a platform on top of Kubernetes. It was called the Hasura platform. And it's sort of like a Heroku plus Firebase on top of Kubernetes that you can run on your cluster. And we built around 50 applications that till date runs in production on this stack. So it had like a Amazon S3 like component in it, Auth0 like an authentication API in it, Kong like gateway which you can configure to route things around your microservices. So this was like a big couple of microservices bundled together with an operator. I mean, we built a Kubernetes operator even before the term was around. So it was going good, but so not really amazing, I would say, because it was amazing for all of us. So I'll come to that. So just a little bit of history on our name, like what is this Hasura, right? Like what is this word? So we were going in blue Honda Brio, this exact car. And one of us, Vamshi, he said, hey, look at that statue or what that thing. Asuras are great. So then Karthik, who is also in the car, he's our employee number 1. So he said, you know what? Hasuras are cool, but you know what? It's cooler. Haskell and Hasura. So he said, let's call it Hasura, right? So Hasura plus Haskell plus Hasura made it Hasura. So our code was written in Haskell at that time. Still it is. So we like named it Hasura, and then that's how the name happened. So we all thought like, hey, what an amazing piece of software, right? Like everybody would want to use it. So let's put it out there and see what happens. But entire world changed channels, right? They're just, meh, what's the next thing? So we're trying to understand like, why is it so? Like what is it that we are doing wrong, or what is it that we can do different, right? To make an impact, to make that impact that we wanted to make always. So we were at this hackathon in San Francisco called Reactathon in 2018. And so we were sponsoring that hackathon to see how people use our product and see what they built, right? So the folks at the hackathon loved it. And before we got there, we wanted to make something more valuable. We want to add something more valuable to the platform to see how the reaction, or to make some hype around the things. So at that time, we looked at what are the technologies that are around, what are the things that our people are hyped about. So we found GraphQL, and at that time, GraphQL was just open sourced a couple of years ago. Everybody is talking about it. People are trying to use it. So 2 weeks of insane hacking, sleepless nights, I would say. We added GraphQL support to our platform, and a lot of people at the hackathon loved it, right? So what they loved was the GraphQL thing to easily prototype their apps and data and everything. But the platform itself was too much. So we were at the hackathon, learned a lot of things, gave gifts to people, swag to people, and that's Rajoshi, one of our co-founder, along with the winner of the hackathon. I think she gave him a t-shirt. Yeah. So we had a lot of learnings from there. So people loved, what do you call it? Yeah, people loved each of the pieces individually. Like I said, we had a S3-like component or Auth0-like component. We had a data component, like a data API component. So the GraphQL component was indeed a success. A lot of people loved it. But the thing that people didn't like was it's too much. Like nobody wanted all of this together thrown at them at once. Like it was too much to understand, too much to grok, and it can only be used for doing something entirely new. Like you can't use it on top of your existing application, augment your existing stack or anything like that. So that is something that, this is the learnings that we had. So we figured that, okay, people are not really using the platform because of course, it's a platform. Like, you can't really bring an entire platform and use it, unlike you use a small component in your application, like a small thing that you put in your stack. So, so the inference from the first thing was we should focus on one piece. And then the inference from the second thing was we should make it easy to get started. So people really liked the way we engineered our experience to get started and everything. We had like a cloud version at that point where you could just log in and get a cluster ready. And the instant APIs and the ability to prototype apps quickly, build apps quickly, that is something that everybody loved. So what we decided was we will make the data, the GraphQL component of this open source. And what we have also figured during this time in San Francisco that talking to people, enough people will try it out if it is open source. I mean, the traction is definitely more if things are open source. I mean, that again comes with the trade-off, like the last speaker mentioned, where our IP is right out there in the open, anybody can use it. So we were like, it's okay, we can, it's like a trade-off that we have to make. We can always be a few steps ahead of whatever else somebody else want to do with your IP. So we spent a couple of months talking to the GraphQL ecosystem, folks who are in the GraphQL ecosystem, the creators of GraphQL from Facebook, users and speakers who speak about GraphQL. We focused on how we can add value, and we focused on making it easy to get started with. So, I mean, if you make something and put it out there, and if enough people try it out, what we have figured that if your product is nice, they only have good things to say. I mean, and they will have more feedback and suggestions for you. So we, of course, put it up on the orange site. I mean, however much you try to hate this site, it gets you numbers on your website. So that is insane, right? So we launched on, we put up the GitHub repo on Hacker News. Our stars just soared that day. So it means it was just soaring high that day. So started from like 1, 2, and then hit 1,000 the very first day, and then it kept on increasing. A lot of people started discussing around it. A lot of people were excited about it. So I just want to show a small demo now to show how easy it is to work with what I mean by this getting started experience is. So let's see. Okay, it's gonna be a little hard. So I'm gonna duplicate. Okay. So all we had to do was go to our website. I'm on my hotspot, so let's see. So we had this big button here. Try it out in 30 seconds. Let me also disable some of my quirks to show the true colors. Yeah. So that'll take you to our docs page, which says click this button. So if you click this button, it'll open up the Heroku dashboard where you will be able to create an instance. So Heroku comes with a Postgres DB add-on. So that was a good thing to us because we supported Postgres natively, and it was easy for us to get started on Postgres. So yeah, so you can just give it a name. So I'm just going to give a name, and then click deploy, and it gets deployed. So in the meanwhile, if I go to this page called elements.heroku.com, so Heroku lists their add-ons and buttons and things like that. So we are the number one over here. I mean, we have been the number one for a long time. So yeah, So now let's see if it is done. So it's still happening. It's basically building a Docker image and pushing it onto the Heroku registries. And yeah, so it's deployed. So if I go to view, I can get the console running. So we try to minimize all the barriers that are there for you to get started. So part of it was we realized that it is not everybody would like to have a CLI to do everything, and people would like to have a console as well. So we built this console. Okay, I should just turn off my dark thingy. Okay. Cool. So this is our console. So people can come here, just go here, create a table. So just let's say I'm going to create a table called test. I'm going to just add a column which has a UUID. These are all standard Postgres things. And the moment I add this table, and if I insert some rows in this table, it's going to randomly insert some rows. And if I go here, I called it teased. Ooh. Okay, no problem. I can rename it. There you go. Okay, so I can query this table easily by saying query. So this is GraphQL. So I can say test, and then I can say ID. And if I execute this query, I'll be able to get the data back. So this doesn't have to be like a fresh database. You can connect it to your database, and that'll just work out of the box. So couple more other things, just to show you the real-time capabilities of the DB. So if I duplicate this tab, and if I change this query to subscription, so I'm going to just say, instead of getting the ID, I'm going to get how many rows are there. So I'm going to do test aggregate, and aggregate with count. So if I do this, it will say 7. So if I change this to subscription, right? Now it's a live query. So it's going to return results whenever there is a change. It's running. So now if I open a new tab, and so I'm going to take this to my screen, and so that you can see that, and I can insert new data here. Okay, let's see. So it still says 7 because nothing is happening. And if I start inserting more rows here, so I'm going to insert more rows. As and when I do it, this number keeps, whatever query you are making, it gets updated. So that's a little bit about the real-time capabilities. Right. So thank you. So let me come back. Yeah. So one important thing is that it's just not enough for people to talk about the product or talk about Hasura. It's very important for people to use it in mission critical applications, right? And then only you will get very solid feedback, and then that is the only thing that will help you to grow. So it doesn't matter if a lot of people are just using it their hobby projects. What really matters is a very small number, or some people are using it in their mission critical applications for their businesses. So it paid off in the first few weeks because a lot of people heard about Hasura, and a lot of people started using Hasura in their mission critical applications, right? So it's very important. I mean, I don't know how to stress this a lot. It's very important to have that first set of users to be a very experienced senior folks who have been building softwares a lot. Because that kind of feedback loop that you get in the initial days are very important to make your product robust and more featureful. So it really matters. So one of such mission critical adoption, or one of such very good users we had, who was this person from Vietnam, who built this thing called Sketch. Sketch is an interactive ReasonML sketchbook. So just after we launched Hasura, this person contacted us and said, hey, look what I built on Hasura. So a very good engineer. He would talk about Hasura in a very legible way to everybody, and very legitimate application. This is still the de facto standard in the ReasonML community to try out and teach ReasonML. So this was built on Hasura, and it kind of showcased all the capabilities that we had. It was real-time, it was collaborative, and people could fork notebooks, create new notebooks, people could save their notebooks, people could run everything on it. And it was insane. This feedback, the feedback that we got from this user was very much valuable to our further features and things that we added. So the next thing that we did, we went on to this ridiculous support mode, right? So we had a huge influx of people talking to us, and every single one of us were suddenly support engineers, right? Every single architect and engineer in the team were like support engineer. We have a community on Discord, and day and night we were doing this. Like, there have been time when I could not do what I was supposed to do, like my actual job, but I was only talking to people on Discord. Suddenly all of us were so-called developer advocates or DevRel nowadays. So it paid off, it definitely paid off. So we listened to our people and kept delivering, and our execution velocity is insane. I mean, I'm very proud of that. We can like ideate on a new feature and deliver it in just a couple of weeks. So we saw big companies, Fortune 500 companies, are adopting Hasura in the next few months. And this is something, if you have a very good support team or very good, what do you call it, relation with your community, you don't need to really have, you don't really need to do the top-down sales thing. You can, I mean, say everything will start coming from the developer community itself. They'll talk to their manager, they'll talk to the people above, and then you'll get things done. So, so we were doing community work, developer feedback, and everything. So if somebody asks us why we are so successful in the open source area, it's just because of the community. And we listen to the community, we interact with the community, and we actively work on the feedback from the community. So that brings us to what Hasura is today, which is where we focus on DX, make it easier to work and work well within the ecosystem, and more mission critical users, learn from them and inform the roadmap. And we are now trying to add support for more databases and data sources. So this is our journey. Every journey is different, and but I think I have some learning outcomes out of it. So I'm going to present a manifesto for catalyzing free and open source software. This is not my manifesto. This is like our manifesto. I mean, ideated by Tanmay. So based on the last few years of work, we have some insights. And number one is focus on creating value and take pride in small things. What I mean by this is, we as Indians especially have this feeling of keeping up our legacy. Things like, I will only build things and launch things that are hard to build, and that would make my parents and my teachers and my friends proud of, and that will acknowledge my genius and awesomeness, right? I mean, if you build something and I'll be like, I'm embarrassed to launch this, it only does X. It should do Y and Z also. Then only I'll be able to I will be able to tell everyone about this. I mean, it doesn't really matter, right? So that kind of thing doesn't really matter. All that matters is if you're creating value or not. So if you're creating value, and there will definitely be people who wants to make use of it, so put it out there. So whatever you build, put it out there. Say things like, say I built something that does X, right? So if it will be useful to anyone who wants to do X, that's it. So one of the best developer tools companies in the world started as a browser extension here in India, right? I mean, I know all of you knows the name, Postman. There's a browser extension. They ruthlessly focused on one single thing and made that thing better over time. And they are now one of the biggest developer tools in the world. I mean, you can't really, it's like they're on the way to become something like GitHub. If you code and you work with web, you are using that product, right? So there is value in any small thing that you add. So find that value and work on creating that value and put it out there. So take pride in the small things again. So, and for consumers, there's a feeling that I will only use, as all of us are consumers of the software anyway, we have this feeling where we'll only use, hyped products. Like what is currently hyped, right? So what is other people use? What do this person use? What does this company use? What does this company do? Like things like, hey, so Google is so successful, so whatever Google is using is what I'll use to be successful, right? So does this thing, whenever we try to use a new tool, we'll be like, oh, it does X, right? Oh, but does it do Y also? Does it do Z also? Can it do all of it? I mean, then I'll use it, right? So don't do such things. Creating value, again, is the most important thing as a consumer. Like, find out how things will add value to your current use case. Find out how technology is gonna help you grow from what do you want to achieve, right? So if you want to do something, if you want to do X, find something that will let you do X quickly, right? And save time. So, and we are attaching too much overthinking to ourselves and not thinking about what the actual value that we need. If you have a problem statement to solve, we are not actually thinking about what is that actual problem that I need to solve. Rather, we are trying to find out what are the things that are out there which can solve all of my problems, right? Instead, try to focus on small parts of your problem and try to figure out things which will solve that particular problem very well. And try to give feedback to the creators of those projects and products. That will help everybody. So next thing to note is that be encouraging and be helpful. Be forgiving and don't hate. So this is something that we see everywhere. So when you find a new thing, use it and give feedback. So sometimes the creators try to drive adoption. They might get too salesy. Like in my demo, I might have went a little bit too far. So some people don't like it, some people don't mind it. So forgive the creators and bless their hearts, right? So most of what they build will probably never get used anyway. So we all know how open source works. So give them some feedback about not being so salesy, and help them out. And as a creator, some users might hate you for it. Accept it, learn from them, and move on. So don't be a bit of don't stress too much on it. So number 2 is to participate. Write a blog, tweet about things, something you found very cool that helped your use case. Tweet about it, write about it, contribute, don't just consume. Answer questions on Stack Overflow, talk about it on meetups, get your office, hiring recruiting team to organize, evening meetups, or workshop in your neighborhood or tech park. So be an active participant in the entire tech space. So number 3 is about being vocal and being cool. So for creators, talk about what you're building and why you're building it, right? So don't talk about how you're building it and your choices, right? So don't claim more than you know, and learn if someone points out something better. We all try to be very defensive if somebody questions about our choices in everything, in our technology stack, in our programming languages. So don't try to be defensive about it, or take all the feedback as constructive feedback and try to work on it. And for consumers, talk about your tech choices. Why did you choose this one over that one? How did this particular thing help you achieve whatever you want to do? Did it cut down your development time? Talk about it. Did it help you do something very quickly, or did it help you, I don't know, anything that helps you, talk about it. Talk about your experiments, especially with softwares which are new. And if you have been an early adopter, that'll help you. That'll help your visibility also, and that'll also help the creator of the software and their visibility also to grow. And that's how the system will mature, right? So say thanks to the creators. Every time we see a message on our community channel or on GitHub issue or everywhere, somebody says, by the way, awesome product. Thanks a lot for creating this. I mean, it means the world to us. I mean, we have been spending all our effort on this, and it means a lot to us. So say thank you to creators, and keep adding this value and be vocal about it. So the last thing is fight the small battles. So what I mean by this is convince your team that open sourcing some work you are doing will help the company. So this is something that so even 1 or 2 members who are in the community, right? Who are in the community and who are in your company and who can act as your company's face in the community is going to help a long way. So for example, I am here talking to you, right? So this is going to help my company also grow. It's going to help add value to all of you by hearing about these things. And it is good to hire people who are active in the open source community and be open to and embrace open source is what I have to say, right? So you don't have to be very close-minded or narrow-minded about this. So promote quality open source work that you find anywhere. So for consumers, refuse to use tools that are bad at work, right? So fight the battle to use the best tool for the job, right? So don't compromise on anything. If you find that tool A does this thing better than tool B, fight for it as a developer in your company. So it'll save time for the company and also make your team look good. Like finally, what you're going to do is achieve productivity for your company and your team. So yeah, that's it. That's it from me. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for listening to me. And yeah, you can find me around if you have any questions. I think I took up all the time. Yes.
We can have 2 questions. Maybe.
Okay.
What's the monetization plan for Hasura?
Yeah, so the monetization plan right now is as an open source product, we sell support contracts for enterprise customers. And we also have a enterprise version in the works that we have been previewing to a lot of users. So it's support plans plus monetized enterprise/cloud version. That's the thing.
Thanks again for the great talk. And so you guys took funding early on, right? So this is also a unique story that you actually went to build the Avengers, and then things happened. So can you share a bit about how that journey took? Like, what was the investment perspective?
Yeah, I don't know how much I can talk, but I'll give a brief. Yeah, you're right. We went on to build the Avengers, but we ended up with, say, I don't know, maybe Iron Man. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, investors. I think I heard earlier that we wanted to bootstrap the company because that is how we could be away from all the external influences. But I think the only thing I can say is that our investors have been pretty supportive, and they have been with us through the journey. So when we made the choice to focus on one single thing, they have nothing but very supportive. So it's good that we have that supportive investors. So yeah.